So nice, you know.
Actually, I can't see. So we're going to take those off. Hello, all of my friends. I'm so glad that you are here. Welcome to November 2023 Chapter Leadership Connect webinar. Today, we are going to talk about sponsorships for your chapter. Sponsorships are one of the best ways to raise those funds for the chapter as you're operating and looking for operating funds for things like scholarships or your Girls in Aviation Day or any events that you're planning. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and I will share my screen here. And we are going to talk about, whoops, there we go. All right, Rory, can you give me a thumbs up? Do we have, all right, perfect. All right, so finding a sponsor for your WAI chapter is the discussion for today. Fundraising can seem extremely, funding your chapter can, I'm sorry, Rory, yeah?
Yes, did you want it where it's got all three screens?
No. All right. Stop share. All right, we're gonna have to do this, I'm sorry, in a different way. And bear with me for a moment. All right, how do we look now, Rory?
Looking good.
All right, so there we go. I swear I can't get through one of these without some kind of a technical difficulty, so I apologize to everyone. So funding your chapter can seem daunting. Some people just seem like they're born gifted to raise tons of money for charitable causes, but most of us are not. This is not our forte. So finding sponsorship dollars for your chapter can often feel awkward and sometimes confusing, but fear not. Funding your chapter through sponsorship dollars starts with effective planning and goal setting. Okay, let's start. What is a sponsorship versus any other kind of fundraising or donation that we might find? A corporate sponsorship is a payment by a business to a nonprofit to further that nonprofit's mission. And it's generally recognized by the nonprofit with an acknowledgement that the business has supported the nonprofit's activities, programs, or special events. So translation is that these corporations or businesses agree to sponsor your local chapter, and you in kind are going to then make sure that they know that they are supporting your Girls in Aviation Day. That's something like mentioning their names as you're doing any of your media out there, or getting their logo out on your funding, putting their logos on your website that they are a sponsor of your chapter. A successful corporate sponsorship benefits both the charitable nonprofit and the sponsor. There are tax issues to be aware of. So in order for a non-corporate sponsorship to be appropriate and legal, the benefit for the for-profit entity should not outweigh the benefit to the tax-exempt charitable nonprofit. So what is allowed under the corporate sponsorship exemption? A nonprofit can, without being taxed, accept any payment so long as there is no arrangement or expectation that the sponsor will receive a substantial return benefit as defined by IRS regulations. This exception does not include income that's made from any conventions or trade shows or advertising in periodicals. I just wanted to make sure that I put that forward. So, if you are hosting, as Young mentioned earlier before we got onto the recording, if you're hosting a gala or if you're hosting, a regional convention, the income for that, if you're charging your exhibitors to come in, that does not include corporate sponsorship tax exemption. So what is considered a substantial return benefit? That's any benefit that's given back to a sponsor and will be considered a substantial return benefit, except you can use the acknowledgement of the sponsor's name, logo, or products. And you can also have goods or services that qualify as disregarded benefits because they have little to no value. So let's say little to no value doesn't actually have a monetary thing attached to it, would be if they sponsor your event at a certain level, they will receive so many entries. Per the IRS, disregarded benefits are considered the following: in-kind fringe benefits are excluded from income under Section 132. Certain benefits provided to volunteers, members, or donors. So let's say all volunteers or members get a t-shirt, that is not a taxable benefit. Benefits provided to a charitable beneficiary, benefits that are provided to or for the use of governmental unit for exclusively public purposes, or expense reimbursements paid under an accountable plan. So as we're out looking for sponsors, what do we need to do first? Gaining financial support through sponsors for your chapter requires learning the principles behind raising money and then practicing them repeatedly. If you go out and look, as I did when I was researching for this webinar, there are tons and tons of nonprofits out there that have their own webinars. They have their own suggestions to learn best practices when you're going out and looking for those sponsors. Sponsorship goals and plans should be one of the first concerns for the chapter's overall organizational strategy and should be clear to all how you support your mission with Women in Aviation International. So remember, to have successful sponsorship campaigns, it can take time to plan and execute. Doesn't have to be something that you are expecting to bring in thousands of dollars within the first quarter, because again, you have to make that good plan. To be successful, start with a plan. Ask your local businesses for help. Find aviation and aerospace companies within your area and ask for their support. Your local airports will often support you. Your flight schools will support you. Build various sponsorship budgets. So if you have specific funding that you know that you need for an event, for Girls in Aviation Day, or for a gala, or for a regional event, or just for chapter operations, or for your scholarship program, make sure that you have those budgets and what your chapter's expectation is on those. Make your proposals creative. Clearly explain your goals to your team as well as your potential sponsors. Come up with a packet that you're handing to your sponsors. Show them the good that WAI does and your chapter is doing within your community. What impacts are you having now, and what impacts are you planning for the future? Clearly explain those goals to your team as well as your potential sponsors. Make sure those sponsors know how their money is going to be utilized, and be accountable for that. As you're using any of the funds that are donated to you, make sure that you're keeping up with your sponsors and you're saying, hey, I just wanted you to know that generous donation that you just gave us was able to sponsor 3 $1,000 scholarships for new students, or whatever that happens to be. Consistently and constantly evaluate your donor base. Are there new donors out there? Are there new companies that have come into your area? And then ask for referrals for like-minded sponsors. You're talking to these local businesses. They know who else is going to be interested in supporting the mission, purpose, and vision of Women in Aviation International, as well as your chapter. So what is a corporate sponsorship? Corporate sponsorships are a valuable source of revenue for nonprofits of all sizes. When businesses make these contributions to nonprofits, both entities benefit. The nonprofit organization secures funding, and the corporations have the benefit of improving their brand's reputation and attracting new customers. A corporate sponsorship can be an in-kind donation matching program to marketing opportunities, or, as we heard earlier with the Boeing program, employee giving programs or employee matching programs. those can definitely count. You know, volunteer hours, if you can talk your sponsor into, hey, you know, gosh, would you be willing to help us find these volunteers, and would you be willing to donate for the hours that those volunteers work, and make that a monetary donation? What are the exact benefits of the corporate sponsorship? For your nonprofit, it's increased awareness for your chapter and Women in Aviation International. You have boosted visibility for your fundraising efforts, new supporters interested in the chapter's mission, as well as the mission and purpose of Women in Aviation International. You would be surprised how many times you'll go out into the community and you'll hear, gosh, I didn't even know that organization existed. And we are out there to get our names out there, get our chapters out there, and let these people know what impacts we are making within the community and within our membership. And then it legitimizes the organization and the chapter in your community when you have these partnerships. If you have a big name partner, a big name sponsor, that looks really good for your chapter. For the corporation, it gives elevated public perception. The chapters may decide that they're going to, or you may allow them to utilize your chapter's logo. Hey, we're a proud sponsor of Women in Aviation International, the Palmetto Pride chapter, as I'm looking at Rory, or the Boston chapter. They can put those logos onto their website and let the community know their participation. It increases satisfaction from current customers. When you have, you know, our membership base walk into a business and they see a little plaque that says, hey, proud supporter of, you know, the Women in Aviation International XYZ chapter in these years, that does have an impact. I have gotten commentary in my past life because my business was a supporter of WAI, and we did have that plaque. And people noticed it was something that they would look at because we put it right next to the front desk and made sure that that was visible. New customers may become interested in the brand due to their new partnership with Women in Aviation International. Perhaps you partnered with someone who does public speaking, and their consulting business is willing to support you. And now you can then recommend, hey, I know these people who can do X, Y, or Z. They are great resume writers when you are looking to go into the airlines. You know, you can pay them and they can help you write your resume. This is a partner of our chapter. They are a trusted source. So they definitely get business out of the partnership as well. And then boosted employee morale. People feel good when they're doing good. When they know that they are making an impact, it really does make an impact on how they feel and the pride that they have within their business for supporting such an important mission. So how would you attract potential sponsors? You want to make sure that you're identifying businesses that align with the mission, purpose, and vision of Women in Aviation International. Start with for-profit companies that share similar audience or work with products in aviation and aerospace. Once a business has been identified, research the person or department responsible for the sponsorships, and don't be afraid to use mutual contacts to make those first introductions. We have fully realized, and we make sure that we promote that our networking is just absolutely imperative, and it has an impact again on all of our members, whether it be to find mentors or to find sponsors, or you know, making those first introductions. Hey, you know, I know Cindy or Joe over at XYZ company, and I think they would be really interested in a partnership with the organization. And then prepare a professional and engaging pitch that speaks to how potential partnership could be mutually beneficial. Include those items that we just talked about a few minutes ago, as well as make sure you're telling them who we are. Who are you and what is your mission? So what makes WAI stand out, and what makes us different from other international or aviation nonprofits? Our donors and sponsors might ask you about WAI and how the organization uses donations or sponsorship money. And the following is a brief description of how you can answer all of those questions. This information is included on our website in our chapter resources section, which I'll give you that information in just a bit. But you can find all of this as a reference as you're going through looking at your fundraising, or I'm sorry, your sponsorship goals for the chapter for the year. So Women in Aviation International is the largest nonprofit organization in the world dedicated to increasing the number of women who are involved in all aspects of aviation and aerospace. And that is a really important selling point, because if you're going to, a business that is an aerospace manufacturer or an avionics shop, or, what is the benefit that we're giving to them? We are working on STEM education. We're working on the future. We are working on making sure that everyone has an opportunity and finding them employees and great leaders as we take our membership through their journey with WAI. With more than 16,000 members active in nearly 90 countries around the world, we are indeed a diverse membership brought together by our shared passion for aviation. A great thing to mention there is also that we support and have the support of our gentlemen allies and advocates. That number is approximately 23% of our membership, those gentlemen allies and advocates who agree that women deserve a seat at the table, that we deserve an equal opportunity and all of the education and things that are necessary to get us there. By donating to Women in Aviation International, you'll also be part of building an inclusive, diverse, and sustainable global aviation and aerospace industry, as well as investing in current and future workforce and inspiring young women and girls to pursue careers in aviation and aerospace. We want to make sure that we're creating a sponsorship level that fits all budgets. So it can be tempting to just go after large companies with big budgets, because large sponsorships equal less work to raise money for the chapter. But sometimes those small sponsors are going to go a long way. For example, I will say my chapter was just able to get a sponsorship from one of our smaller local flight schools. They came in at the $500 level, and that's absolutely perfect, because now we have visibility within that flight school and their students, and we've also increased our membership by doing so. And those members are starting out, we've had them for about 2 months. They're starting out to be extremely active and engaged and involved with the chapter. And don't limit yourself. Small businesses may value a sponsorship opportunity even more than a large business. They may have a large customer base, which can be a nice benefit in addition to the business's financial support. So as their customer base is finding out that they're sponsors, it's an interest to them as well. And they may be coming in and saying, hey, I really would like to help with this. As well as, you never know how much a company's budget they're willing to spend to support nonprofit initiatives and or sponsorships by their size. Some smaller businesses may be willing to sponsor at higher levels if they're a brand that goes above and beyond to give back to the community. And again, we heard an example from one of our members just earlier before we started this webinar with regard to the company that she works for that is a large global company, but they are willing to, and they are a huge supporter of Women in Aviation International as the international organization. But with her work, they are also having conversations about how they can support that chapter locally and in a very significant manner. So, are you ready to find sponsors? Consider these readiness factors that are provided by the National Council of Nonprofits. Make sure you identify your value proposition that will attract a business to sponsor your nonprofit's mission or special event. Do you know what the potential sponsor wants? Do they want visibility? Do they want to put your logo on? Do they want to make sure that they're on all your swag advertising that they've sponsored? Make sure you understand what they're going to want, because it is a donation that you're going to recognize. What does success look like for your sponsor? Do they have an expectation that it's going to bring them new customers? Do they have an expectation that it's going to bring them more goodwill? What is their expectation? And then what goals do you have for the nonprofit besides financial contributions? Is it for publicity? Are you looking for volunteers or free assistance with any events that you may have? Are you looking for in-kind donations? Like we talked about just a few minutes ago with those employee donation programs. What is it that you and your chapter are looking for, and how are you going to raise those? And then make sure you're documenting that in your expectations, obligations, and deliverables in writing. Most successful sponsorships are based on a written sponsorship agreement. And then again, that follow-up so that you can make sure that you are giving them the information of what impact that they have had. And they're a lot more likely to continue that sponsorship when they have that kind of communication. And then keep in mind that anytime a nonprofit engages in a transaction with a for-profit, the charitable nonprofit has an obligation to avoid private benefit, which can occur, for example, when the benefit for the for-profit business of the corporate sponsorship outweighs the benefits to the charitable nonprofit. Significant penalties can result from the IRS. To attract new sponsors, practice delivering a dynamic pitch. You want to show how your brand objectives align. How does the objective of the chapter and Women in Aviation International align with their particular business and their particular goals? It's also a good idea when you're looking into the corporate sponsor to make sure that you've researched what is their DE&I program? What are their goals? Do they have that publicized? And then you can align your pitch to meet what their goals are. Highlight the mutually beneficial aspects of the sponsorship, and then make sure you're offering feasible examples of initiatives to illustrate the potential pathway forward. Avoid giving those hypotheticals. You can definitely tell them about, hey, this is our vision and this is our plan, but these are the impacts that financial assistance from corporations has already had upon the chapter, and here's where we would like to go with additional support. Building those relationships, make sure you're following up with the business to thank them for their time after you've presented that sponsorship packet. Keep conversations going by continuing to work proactively with the partner. Did we meet the expectation that you had with this donation? Schedule regular meetings to review the expectations, roles, and tactics, and speak openly about any changes or developments. Hey, gosh, I know you sponsored our Girls in Aviation Day that was supposed to occur on September 23rd, but I live in Arizona. We planned on having ours at Falcon Field in Mesa, and all of a sudden this microburst came in and absolutely destroyed the entire airfield. So sorry. This is not going to happen on this date. We have a backup plan. Make sure you're communicating all of those things. And that is a real-time example for our poor Arizona chapter. Their Girls in Aviation Day got whammied by a microburst that just decimated Falcon Field. So they reached out to their sponsors and made sure that they were aware that although the event isn't occurring now, we are still going to utilize those funds for a Girls in Aviation Day, and here's what our plan is. Show them how much you value their support and what their sponsorship means for their cause. Again, put their brand everywhere. Thank them everywhere. Thank them in your emails that you're sending out to anyone. Put at your bottom tagline, this chapter is sponsored by companies X, Y, and Z. Put it on your website. Make sure that they know how much you value that partnership. With consistent and transparent communication, you can form that solid foundation to build future initiatives with the business. Again, we know in this industry, connection is everything. When you know people and you have made friends with people and you can get their support, their buy-in is already there, and they're going to be willing to help. There's some helpful tools from WAI, as I mentioned earlier, that you can find on our website. Couple of examples here are our sample letter of thanks for our sponsors, as well as the initial sponsorship level there. That's the one that has the Girls in Aviation Day logo on it, which you can amend and change that to your chapter logo or however you want if you would like to use this letter as an example and then build it out specifically for your chapter. You can find these documents and more at the website, www.wai.org. You'll then navigate over to the resources page, or I'm sorry, the resources tab. And from the resources tab, you want to select chapter resources. In chapter resources, we have all of our programs and information organized in a manner that you'll want to go to that link that shows additional chapter resources. We've got a few things on there for you for fundraising to try to give you as much and sponsorships to try to give you as much help as possible. When in doubt, make sure that you are referring to the IRS. The IRS is the ultimate guiding entity as we are walking through this. You can find all kinds of information and end up in a massive rabbit hole if you so choose. At the website, there is really some helpful information on there, and it is pretty easy to navigate. But irs.gov, charities and nonprofits, and then charitable contributions. Or we also suggest, when you are in doubt, contact a tax professional to ensure that the chapter is accepting and handling your funds appropriately, as the rules and regulations are updated regularly and can sometimes be confusing. So, in full transparency, I'm not a tax expert. I have a lot of Google expertise, and I find a lot of information on this website when y'all are coming back to me and asking me questions with regards to this. So I use the IRS all the time. But if there's ever any doubt, contact an accountant and make sure that the chapter is on the right track and is following all of the current regulations. I really liked this quote, and I thought that it was pretty fantastic. Sponsorship today requires genuine engagement and a belief in the shared goals of the partnership. And I truly and firmly believe that when you, as a chapter, are going out to these sponsors and you are communicating to them in earnest, what is the goal? What is the impact that Women in Aviation International has? Talk about our scholarships, talk about the mentorship program, talk about Girls in Aviation Day, talk about the Jobs Connect. As a corporate sponsor, here are the benefits to your chapter. Become familiar with that. Corporate sponsors, if they join as a corporate sponsor for Women in Aviation International, they receive five memberships for their employees automatically. There are discounts there for them for conference and for our magazine and publications for them to advertise, and for numerous things to benefit them. And they're going to feed on the passion that you present to them. If you're just coming and you're timid and you're scared and you don't have the confidence of, here's who I am and here's what we do and here's what our goals are, they're less likely to get on board immediately. When you have the enthusiasm, they're going to share that with you. Last but not least, as always, Rory Einbinder, who is in my Zoom right below me, but she is the queen, so she should be in the box on top, is what I think. You can always, yeah, I love it, the queen wave. You can always reach out to us. We work really hard to make sure that we have as many answers back to you as possible when there are any questions. So make sure you're reaching out to us. And if we don't know the answer, we'll try to help you find the answer or give you the best advice possible. So with that, I want to thank everyone for being here. I'm going to stop sharing my screen And are there any questions that I can answer for anyone with regard to sponsorships? I see that we had our SoFly chapter join, and they are fabulous at this. They are fabulous at going out and finding sponsorships. Jess, are you in a spot where you can talk about kind of what the plan was for the chapter when y'all got started? I want you to know this chapter just became provisional like in the February timeframe, and they were able to gain a significant number of sponsorships for their activities as well as for their Girls in Aviation Day.
Can you hear me okay, Jesse?
I got you. This is Jessica Matthews. She's the president of our SoFly chapter out of Florida.
Excellent, excellent. Well, thank you for the kind words, Jesse, and I'm glad I was able to join. I apologize, I'm just on a lunch break right now, so forgive me if there's any background noise. I'm joined as well with Nina Batone, our treasurer of SoFly Southern Tropics, and really it was a collective effort of our leadership team. The combination of both the commercial side of the business as well as business aviation allowed us to really capture both segments of the industry. And I echo exactly what you said, Jesse. You have to be confident in the mission. You have to have a pitch deck. You have to be able to answer all of the questions on how you impact the local community. But as you mentioned, we've had a great support from our community outreach. And right now, actually, we're assembling our official committee of fundraising and just reached out to a potential chair. I think she'll be accepting it. And I think under that leadership, we'll be able to double the funds that we raised in our provisional year.
Oh, my gravy. That is super exciting. And again, when I tell y'all that they did fabulous, they like there were 5 figures in there that I am aware of. And hi, Nina.
Hi, Jessie. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I've been here actively listening and learning new information.
Well,
Thanks.
I'm so glad you're here. Again, y'all have a pattern that I really want to see if we can help replicate for all of our chapters. So as soon as things calm down for all of us, we've kind of had a conversation already that what I would like to do is get like samples of that pitch deck to take out and put up for the chapters. And so those are things that we're working on them in the background for you chapters. Make sure again that you're always checking that chapter resources page, because when I get new information or I get fabulous things like what they've got to, you know, kind of strip down a little bit as far as any of the details go, but give it as an example, I'm going to put those up there for you and make sure that you have access to them. I see Carol Ann with her hand up. What you got, girl?
Hi, sorry, I have a head cold, so I apologize for my voice. I just joined the Kansas City Heart of America chapter and got listed as BP. So a couple questions for you guys since this is new to me. Is there anything that's off limits when it comes to fundraising? For example, I run a poker league, and once a month we do a nonprofit game. And so are we able to get funds from something like that, or is there anything that you guys kind of stick away from?
So my current advice on fundraising is to make sure that you are checking the IRS website. Again, there are some changes. I mentioned this at the first before we started recording. There are some changes that are occurring within the IRS. Those changes have been rumored, but they are not yet published. So I did not have the information to be able to access to present to you today. Keep an eye out. I do know that there are chapters that have done things that are similar to that, Carol Ann. As of right now, I believe all of that kind of fundraising is still acceptable as long as you are accounting for it appropriately.
Okay, so but there's nothing that Women in Aviation specifically say it's as a no-go.
So the only thing that would be like a no-go for us would be like a poker run, where we are sponsoring everyone to fly to different places.
Gotcha.
And
Okay.
do that because we can't fly. Due
Right.
to our insurance restrictions, we can't fly. So the poker run would be out, but if there are funds raised from a charitable game, I believe, but again, let's talk to our tax professionals on that. I believe that is acceptable.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And that's a pretty cool idea. That's a really cool idea.
Thanks.
I like that. Hi, Carrie.
Hi, thanks. I formerly was part of the North Texas chapter, and now I'm part of the provisional Boston chapter, and we are just kind of getting our feet under us and getting up and running. So I wanted to ask Jessica if you had any tips. I feel like fundraising when I was in Texas was a lot easier because we had photos and examples and statistics and numbers that we could say we had, X number of attendees last year. Here are our goals moving forward. But one of the struggles I think right now for us is that we don't have any prior experience or any prior events or anything to go off of. And so I know, Jesse, you mentioned that you were hoping to get a hold of their letter and kind of share some of that information. But Jessica, I just didn't know if you had any tips or tricks starting out to help kind of grow from the ground up for what you said to get people to be on board.
Sure, definitely. So what we did as a provisional and startup chapter that just launched in January of 2023 is we leveraged the global brand of Women in Aviation International. So there was an extensive PowerPoint on the website for WAI. So we used a lot of those key figures. So there was annual attendance figures, how many events took place. So we leveraged the WAI brand through our startup year and will continue to do so. So I think that's the best way to bring credibility and social proof because you are a startup chapter and leveraging your existing network. So like I mentioned, our members represent commercial and business aviation. So in any of our business engagements, we're always complementing that with a discussion on SoFly. So I would say start with your inner network and always ask for referrals. And definitely setting goals. So if you have a committee or a leadership team or members, we set a financial goal for each individual that was contributing.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks. And we'll be happy to share that documentation with you.
Yeah, that would be really wonderful. Thank you.
That's awesome, Jess. Yeah, I would love to get a hold of that, and I can strip it down and make it less specific to y'all. That way, if you've got some proprietary information in there, I'll check with you and make sure that everything's cool before I put it up. But I would love to be able to have a grip on that and share it with our leaders because I think it's so helpful. Sissy,
Perfect.
you've got your hand up.
Hi, I'm from the Madison, Wisconsin chapter, and my question is, what are some of the example of fundraising events other chapter do? Right here, we sell our chapter coffee. That's our biggest fundraising event. I'm open to other events that we can bring to Wisconsin.
I think I need a little bit of an explanation here. So you sell the chapter's coffee. Do you have like a luncheon or do you actually customize bags?
So we had a design contest ended last month and we picked the winner, and then the winner was a 9 years old member, and that's our package. And then we collaborated with a local coffee shop. We have the poster and the coffee in our chapter Instagram. It's called the Four Lakes. WAI 4 Lakes is our chapter, and you can take a look. But I'm like so open to other fundraising ideas because so far this is the biggest that we've got here.
Well, first of all, let me compliment y'all because that is super creative and I love it. That is really, really a creative idea, and congratulations to you, because I will say that's a first and it's something that I've never thought of. I've not heard of that specific partnership. Again, I do want to be very careful about dipping our toes into that fundraising portion because there are those changes that are coming that I'm not quite versed on. As soon as I am, I will make sure I get y'all as much information as possible. But some ideas that I have seen in the past are you can refer to something like pumpkin painting contests. I can give examples for myself for sure. So I used to be a manager for a local FBO, and we would have a pumpkin painting contest, and the customers would actually come in and vote. So it was like $1 donation for a vote for which pumpkin was the best, or which mini Christmas tree was the best. And they would vote with their dollars, who has the best one, and all proceeds went back to the chapter. So that may or may not work for your area. Our FBO was extremely busy, so we were able to get some decent funding out of it, and it was fun too. It was engaging with the customers. They really enjoyed it. They thought it was a fun thing for us to have there on display. And honestly, it was my employees that volunteered their time and talent to help me do that. Let's see. She mentioned a poker run earlier. Again, I believe, or I'm not a poker run, I'm sorry, a poker game earlier. And that at this point in time is something that's acceptable. There are fundraising galas. I would be careful with fundraising galas because you're fundraising, but you're also spending a lot of money to put that gala on. Reaching into the local community, bake sales. Our ERAU Daytona chapter has had a fantastic idea that we've highlighted couple of times in the AFW magazine, but they do a garage sale type thing at the beginning of the semester. And the first year that they did it, they kind of had a little bit of everything. They had clothes, they had things. They actually changed it this year, and they decided that what they were going to sell were items that they had donated from students the year prior that people were going to need as they came into their dorm rooms. So rugs that are in good condition, trash cans, lamps, mini fridges, those type of things. And it was brilliant. They raised quite a bit of money by doing that. And all of the things that they had were donations from students that were leaving the year prior. So they did have a place to store that stuff until they were able to host their garage sale. But it was really cool. And they're not calling it a garage sale. It's a, gosh, I can't remember exactly what they call it, but really, really successful with that. There are partnerships that you can do with local businesses. I'm sure everyone has been into their local Chick-fil-A or Freddy's hamburgers. I know Culver's does it a lot if you've got a Culver's in your area and you're in Wisconsin. So I'm going to say you do.
Yeah,
yes. Have a butter burger for me because I miss them. But you can partner with Culver's and they will help donate proceeds back to the chapter. Find things like that. Okay. Donut days. There are the donut fundraisers, and our Los Angeles chapter had an extremely successful donut fundraiser with Krispy Kreme.
Oh, Krispy Kreme. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I sent
Krispy Kreme's got that charitable program too. So take a look into them because they do give a lot back.
Okay. I will look that up. I send an Instagram post to the chat box. So if you click on the link, you can see.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right. We are running into the end of our hour. So are there any other questions or points of discussion, ideas from anyone? I will say one other idea on your sponsorship levels. So my chapter has, again, we only have corporate sponsors. We really do very little fundraising. And for our corporate sponsors, when they come in at a certain level, we have built into our packet that if they are at the, $2,500 level or at the $5,000 level, then we will pay for their corporate membership out of that donation. So, we may be losing $500 toward the international organization per year, but we're also gaining $4,500 in addition to that $500. And again, we're gaining members because they've got those 5 memberships that are complimentary when they are a corporate member of Women in Aviation International. They also count toward your chapter rebate for $25 per company that you're able to bring in. So that's more money that you're able to apply to things like your annual fees or sending someone to conference. But giving that kind of a thing back to your sponsors, it's an in-kind donation that is completely legal, and it is something that I would recommend that you think about, because corporate sponsors really like that. Now they're not just supporting the chapter financially, they are intimately involved, and their employees are intimately involved.
So, so Jessie, how much for the limit? Because I know that when I had the first event for Girls in Aviation Day, and we had quite a big, like $1,000 from some companies, So in that case, how much I can help them for membership so we can gain the member?
So at this moment, our corporate members are $500 for every corporate member. That may be being evaluated. That may change. So make sure that we're paying attention to that. But at the moment, $500 per year for any company that joins.
Okay.
You have to decide what is the benefit for you. Is that $500 payment and then $500 for the chapter enough to then ensure that you're going to keep that company engaged and they're going to give that $1,000 every year? So that's a guaranteed $500 you have in your budget every year. And what's your ROI? That's what that's what you have to decide. For our chapter, that does start, I believe, at the $1,000 level.
Okay, it's because this is beginning of a chapter, but next year we have enough money to build, then I can subsidizing money for the conference, like 10 ticket, for a registration fee for the $5,000. I can subsidizing to them. But like you mentioned,
that's a great idea. Yeah. Instead, offer them one or two or however many complimentary conference registrations if they're at a certain level, because you can arrange that with us. We can certainly take care of that and make sure that they get registered appropriately.
Okay, good. I have to drop off this meeting, but I'll catch you later because I have on a WebEx because I'm working at home and I'm just on site.
Multitasking all the time. You're a busy lady, Young. We know. And we appreciate you so much. Janet, you've got a question?
Sorry, multitasking. I apologize.
I get it.
I'm with the Cornhusker chapter in Nebraska. We're just getting started. So I really appreciate, all the good input of what I'm hearing today. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for being here. We appreciate it. Is there something we can help answer for you?
No, just learning a lot on how we're going to pave the way and what we're going to do. So this is really time well spent. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And, thank you all. None of this with Women in Aviation International happens without you. You as a chapter, you as a member, the dedication and time that you put into this, because we are all volunteers. We discussed that last month on our webinar. Everyone's a volunteer, but we have such a passion for what we're doing. And it is such a worthwhile thing. Your community agrees. I'm going to tell you, your community agrees. Your business community, again, you can find sponsors in the strangest places. You can find restaurants that want to support you. You can find, I think I mentioned at one point in time, Joe's Tire Shop. They're looking for mechanics too. If we're introducing kids to STEM, and we're HVAC companies, if we're introducing them to STEM and engineering and all of these things, that could be a benefit to them someday too. Your accounting firms, think about all of the people that Women in Aviation International represents, because it's not one specific group of people. We are heavy supporters of the military, and the military supports us as well. You can't get money out of them a lot of times, but you can get some really cool stuff like your your Fly Like a Girl patches or stickers or, you know, things to give out to them. You just look for those partnerships because they are out there. It does take some work. Have a plan, start with a reasonable, manageable plan, and then build from there. So, and I'm so excited because we have well-established chapters represented here. We have a lot of new faces that are represented here, new chapters. And if you watch our website, we are consistently growing. I hope with the new AFW magazine, when you see how many chapters we have been able to get official, like our Boston chapter, they worked really hard and they are now official. Carrie, you've got everything you need. And you've got your certificates. So from the official chapters that are healthy and going and either or kind of restarting again, to all of the provisional chapters that are coming in, this mission is growing, and you can tell that people are really, really engaged and involved and passionate about it. So we're proud of all of you, and we really do thank all of you. With that, I'm going to stop recording because I'm starting to get sappy.